Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting of Water, Sewer, and Engineering Committee. All right, we need to review and approve the minutes from the last meeting. I'm assuming that they were sent out on time.
Yes.
So accept a motion to approve those minutes from the June 5th meeting. Motion and a second.
One second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. All right, those minutes are okay. Oh, we have some members from the public here. Can you just tell us your names, so for our minutes,
Helga Pritchard
okay?
and Lori Green.
Lori Green, okay. Would you like to start with the public comments first from the public? Okay,
My daughter Denise, she is a spokesperson here, was unable to come, so we really would like to just know what the update is. Whether you have found any records of the maintenance of the culvert there. And yes, and we just want to see what the development.
But they've been at the last couple of meetings about,
The
drainage
drainage behind
concerns.
Van Antwerp Road and this whole corridor over here. So I know one question you did have, had to do with the culvert that crosses that street here.
Yes, it seems like the water, when we have a lot of rain, especially in the spring, the water backs up onto the property and makes it even a bigger wetland. Getting all these, whatever they're called.
That's about 4 or 5 properties in that stretch.
Laurie lives right next to it, and she as well has this water problem that actually seems to go through the little brook, and but comes right back. Yeah, he walked our property.
Yes,
and
yep.
at that time it was fairly dry.
Mhm.
I mean, I was surprised. But sometimes the shed is this much water standing there that the floorboards all go swinging around. So I think in front of the culvert, there's a grid, and you have brought water along the road, not street. But about 3 feet before that, there's a big sort of a dam that over the years have gotten higher and higher of all the water coming from up from the apartments there, that it was just accumulating and you creating sort of a lake that backs up even more.
We lost our shed because of it, and I know the Calhouns on the other side of Sid, their garage is unusable back there because that whole section is all marshy and muddy. So it's really has affected that whole stretch of properties from Calhousen's all the way down behind the library.
I do know that it is a wetland area that runs within there, so there are some limitations in what we can do. And I know, Ray, you did do maintenance on
So
that.
I didn't find any records of it, but I do remember that the foreman I sent up there identified, I think it's at the end of your property where it comes into all these big tall reeds and everything. There was just what you had said, where your water came out of your yard that made like a hump and stuck, and that was retaining water further up. I do know that we sent a handful of guys down there with rakes and shovels to dig and break that barrier, but it was small. What we could accomplish, I think that was 2 years ago. I think he even met with you, my supervisor DJ, and then they looked at your problem, and then we sent them downstream to identify why that water was holding. So once it reaches the wetlands there, it doesn't have a clear channel like it has in your backyard. It kind of disperses and correct. So as them reeds back there, them big tall green plants get thicker and thicker, it blocks like a straight flow of water and kind of disperses it, but it does hold back in your,
Correct.
up in your properties.
Yeah, because if you do that too. Last year. Now, you don't have as much of an issue this year.
Right, we could do minimal what we did, because it was all, they chopped the plants out by hand, they took rakes and shovels and dug a small trough to try to alleviate. Obviously, the stuff's gonna grow back twice as thick whenever we do it, seems to be.
And last year was, unusually wet year. We've had drainage complaints
Absolutely.
all over the town, so I wouldn't solely
Gauge
judge,
on that.
yeah, based on last year, but, this year, how has it been so far?
So far,
Okay,
even with the rain. Do they, Denise said for us to ask about an update on the culvert maintenance records, whether you were able to find them.
So I did not. We do periodically, when it rains, check outflows and stuff like that, for our target areas.
there's also only so far that they can go beyond the inlet of the culvert, the maintenance, because you're getting into the wetland area.
And it requires
Permitting, yeah.
permitting and
But you, I mean,
I don't know what we can do here.
We'll have to look into that.
yeah,
See, because I know there was talk about what we had to cut down in front here,
Right,
and we were then allowed to do that.
right.
Possibly, we might be allowed to do some.
But I don't think there's an identifiable trench from their properties to that culvert over there. I think it more kind of wanders. If it is permissible, which we can look into, what we may be able to do, Matt, if we can get permission to do that, maybe I can use my robotic mower that I got, to try to open up and knock the reeds down so that the water will follow. There's no way we can get a machine out in the middle of there
No.
to dig, because it's,
It's because one section, yet the one.
are you above her?
This way.
You're closer to us.
The bee to try to dig to get it to flow into the little stream that's there. Show somebody that.
I don't have a problem moving out there, yeah.
So is that an easement or is it a right of way?
There's some town property mixed in, and then there's also a, easement, conservation easement as well.
So, well, everybody would do that for us, give us permit. It's a legality, that's all I'm saying is, so I guess what we could say is it would be good to map that, identify what is easement, what is right of way, what is town owned. So kind of
Yeah.
put all the pieces together and identify where the impact is.
Yeah,
Because if we can get it to discharge, it will relax what's holding in your yard. So,
yeah,
so I think the few things is to identify the property owners, the easements, the right of ways, and what we can
And
excessively do within these wetlands.
and I did find, Rich Pollock's file on this area. So there's a, pretty extensive file.
You got that deep on your desk?
Yeah, 2006. So that does identify some of the properties
Okay.
and some of the efforts. I know you said that what was done back in 06 really didn't do a lot.
Just say, we have been living there for 60 years. And there was none of that. There was not any of that weed. So it was not an all wetland. It was woodland.
Right.
And
They probably had a more distinguished channel.
there was no clear channel. It was just birds. The kids were always going to the high school, through the woods. Yes, and, but once the buildings, Knox Street extension, once they actually built the Knox Street extension,
Mhm.
and with this big culvert, that's when the water table plus all the buildings.
It changes, yeah.
And very drastically. So I did see the water come down from the apartments there, and it was never in the holding, whatever. What they call it?
Detention, yeah, so we did witness, we were able to go up there during the storm. We did witness that one of the holding ponds is not receiving any water or not a lot of water because the water runs down the shoulder and then falls off into the wetlands rather than following it into the catch basin. So that's something that we're working on, seeing what they can do as far as maybe berm up the property a little bit to force the water into the catch basin that will go into the pond, then discharge into the wetland. So right now it's not that I'm aware of. Everything it looks like from the apartments that are up there, or I guess the condos, when they were built, they had intended to have two ponds, and but I believe one is functioning, the other one may not be receiving as much water as it should be. It's pretty much Dan and I, from Dan from my office, we went and looked at it, and I think with a minor grading change, we could force the water to go into the pond. That would be some help and help to slow down the flow. But and we are also looking at a townwide drainage study, and this is an area that we can also include in that to see how everything is tied together. Give us some planning for the future and understanding what's going on.
Appreciate you taking an interest in this.
And once you get what we need together, I'd be happy to come over to your house with Matt as
Yeah.
well. To see if we can identify some areas of relief, whether it's above you, below you. So channels will be formed, not necessarily by blockages, they carve new channels, so maybe by putting, the context together of the mapping and everything, that's what happens a lot of times is they channel away from just Mother Nature carves their own channel, and it does change. It always flows downhill, but it may not be totally a way to relieve the problem. So once we have our stuff together, I'd be happy to come over with Matt as well and Dan to take a look at, see if there's something we can come up with a plan to help both of you actually, and your neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for coming.
Take care now.
Tomorrow.
Drainage. Okay. Public comment done.
Is that all you needed me for?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Oh, yeah.
That might be.
Yeah. Loosen that, it'll be all right.
It's cool.
Enjoy your 4th of July, everybody. I'm going Sunday then.
Flip it over to
No, I will not. Take care now.
Mowing, yeah, you can better understand how it's going. The next one. Had nothing new. We just leave. It's just I can pull it.
Sorry.
Same thing with the fence easement agreement. This was, we thought it was going to be on for, the end of June, but I have not heard back from the property owner. as far as receiving the signed agreement back, so. Once I get that back from them, we can move forward.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Engineering, we're still working on the lead service inventory. David the intern in our office, has been doing a ton of work on that. We've gotten through most of our records, I would say, and identified the areas with the most likelihood of having lead pipe. And I think we're at the point now where we're trying to determine which areas we want to just do some potholing with our vac truck, just to identify certain neighborhoods. And if we can find lead in one and they were all built at the same time, we're going to assume that they're all lead unless we can find records that they've been replaced.
So we're doing it by going through our own records, basically on years, properties built prior to.
Well, we have to do all properties in town. So we went through all of our records that we have scanned in, going back. I think probably the best ones we have is going to be going to the 60s.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that, we don't have a lot of good records for.
Okay.
But I think from 83 and on, you can assume because of the change in the codes.
Right.
Lead is not used.
Right.
However, I was able to find, and Dan was able to find a lot of the records from the 70s, which we didn't think we would find copper. They indicated copper, which was great because
That's good.
it makes it a lot easier for us. And so a lot of Rosendale estates, Avon Crest, where we thought we would find lead, we found copper, which is good.
That is good. So then do we have to put out some sort of, are we looking to notify the residents or ask the residents?
So the
Look at their
so the mandate from the feds down to the state, then to us, is we have to identify both sides of the main. In many places, you have the public side and the private side, and the valve in the front yard is where the property usually changes. In the town of Niskayuna and many towns in Schenectady County, it's all private, but the state still wants us to treat it as the public and private side. So we have to know what's from the street to the curb stop in the front yard, and then from the curb stop into the house. So where we don't have records, we have to go and either enter it with the home or send out a postcard or do some way of getting this information from the individual homes, because a lot of times you'll have lead from the street to the curb stop, and from the curb stop into the house is a different material. And because usually when it's built, they build the main in the street
Right,
and the service to the curb stop, and then the builder comes along and builds a house.
correct.
And that connection is made by a different plumber usually.
Yeah.
And in all the years that I've been here, and even everyone within our staff, we've never found a lead pipe going into a house.
Is that right?
Yeah, the lead pipe in town is from the main to the curb stop. Usually,
Yeah, the municipality usually had from the main to the curb.
we didn't, a lot of those, no, because the builders would build the main and then they turn it over to the town. So it was just standard that we use lead from the main in so far, and then either we're finding copper or galvanized iron pipe, which we still have to identify regardless, because the state, if they see galvanized pipe after it's lead, they treat it as lead, because they get so much buildup and tuberculation on the inside of a galvanized pipe. Any lead that's gone, any water that's gone through the lead into the galvanizing over the years, we assume that it's getting trapped in that lining on the inside of the pipe. So they want to know that information as well.
That's
So,
interesting. I didn't know.
yeah.
that. Yeah.
and they're asking something that's not attainable. They want us to physically identify every pipe. And I'm not gonna dig up a road to identify what someone's water service is if we don't even own it.
As you said, that's a big story.
Yeah, and everyone is, almost every municipality is taking the same stance, saying this is not possible, we'll do our best. And it's going to be an ongoing list, so we give the list by mid-October, I believe the deadline is. And then as we find out information, we'll update the list, and it will just be an ongoing process. And then not so distant future, they're gonna start making municipalities change the lead pipes out.
Still at.
Yes, in fact, we just did our lead and copper testing for this year. I think we're at a 3-year cycle. And so we just did and I haven't heard, we don't have the results yet, but the last time we did the tests 3 years ago, we didn't have any issues. So yes, yeah, it's a corrosion control program, and we have to test for lead and copper, and we test, and we did 36 samples in various properties around town, and we have to have at least 30. So we sent out 36, and hopefully we get at least 30 back, which we did. So, if we get any red flags from any high levels of lead or copper, then we have to report it. But like I said, we haven't had the issues in the past. So, but regardless of all that, even though the lead's not showing up in the water because of national issues, they're pushing for the replacement. So, the one thing about sending out the postcard, I had planned to do that 2 months ago, and because of issues that we have within the IT department, I can't send that out because that postcard is going to have a QR code on it, so people can scan. They can take a picture of the QR code, take a picture of their pipe in their house, and then it will take them to the town's website where they can fill out the information to avoid having 7,000 phone calls. People trying to schedule an appointment to come into their house, trying to schedule 7,000 appointments. So I wanted to do this during the interim when we have sent out our water bills, and now we're waiting till the next round of water bills because it will generate calls regardless. And I wanted to try to focus on now because there's a little bit of a lull for Chris down at the water and sewer garage, and we have the intern working for us. So I'm hoping that I can get that out and we can get some. Yeah, I was going to try to set up. Steph's going to do a sort of a database for it so that we don't automatically populate 7,000 plus all the homes. Okay,
Not next week, the week after.
okay. That's good that he was gone for good. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Water and sewer maintenance. We're continuing to try to get applicants for the water and sewer maintenance position. I did have one gentleman that stopped in, he saw our sign on Balltown Road, so I'm waiting for an application.
Thanks for changing that.
Yeah. Yeah, the bike thing was over, so it was, I thought they were gonna change it, but it's been sorted out, so hopefully we'll get some more interest from the sign. That sign also brought us a seasonal worker applicant as well. So I'll have a name most likely for the board meeting coming up for seasonal worker. The only problem is it's going to be by the end of July when we do the appointment, and being a summer worker, we would only have the beginning of August probably. I want to assume that he would be going back to college. Yeah,
So we can't get them on for next week.
I didn't want to.
If he gets his stuff, I think 7.
Yeah, I just didn't want to make it too hard.
His all the civil service stuff is done, right? The application.
The application's done, but he just came in yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. Can we can it be done retroactively or?
If it's done in time, I can change the packet on Monday.
Okay,
See what you can do.
And then if not, I mean.
I just don't want- I-
Seasonal workers, but
We have done that.
okay.
There's a
I know
whole
it's,
other seasonal.
It's difficult, so we have to do that. It's not ideal, but sometimes we have to do it.
But like I said, if we're ready to go, I can just add it to maybe Lori's that has all the seasonal workers on it or something.
Okay. Right,
I just would need, I think, title, not really wage.
okay. Thank you. The next item, the 10-wheel dump truck that we bought last year. We want to add a third axle to it because it's very long. And I think it would be better for the overall use of the truck, because when they fully load the truck, we're getting close to the weight limit on that, and having a third axle our truck, we used to have a third axle on our previous 10-wheeler or and we went out and, Dan, do you remember how much that was? It's on my desk right now. We've been fighting for the last 6 months to get a quote from a second company. They won't even return calls. It's crazy. So I have a quote from one company to do the work.
Is this designed to add the axle?
It has space for it, yeah. I mean, it all depends. It's a long chassis, so having that third axle on there does help, distribute the weight when you're fully loaded. Right now, we have the guys not fully loaded, because if you were to fill the full bottle with stone is fine, but if you're using mud and wet, heavy clay, you could overload that truck, and I'd rather not do that. It's such a nice truck, and we're gonna have it for the next 20 years, so.
Okay.
And there is money in the 2009 Ford. I believe I did include that in the, if that was for equipment for a truck.
That we allocated, correct.
I have 2 items that came up just yesterday. The printer at Christine's printer died on her, and she's looking for a replacement printer. She has that really large one because at one point they decided that we were going to be printing our bills in-house. We don't do that anymore, so I don't think she would need. I mean, it's the size of a photographer. That's how big it is. So a smaller laser jet would be fine. I just don't know the process right now, because normally that you have to go through an IT director. So, in the meantime, I have one in my office. I'll let her use the one in my office.
I have to look at it. See,
Yeah.
that small laser jet should be.
Yeah,
within-
that could just be
Fire
within.
hydrant.
Well, you look at it, it's so weird. Is any computer or peripheral has to go through, get the IT director and then the finance committee. Okay. And it's a weird carve out for technology.
I think because it's written, it was all that was so.
Yeah. And then another item, we've been trying to get iPads for the water and sewer crew. And we've been steered away from iPads, and Dan has been trying to win over Seth to get iPads rather than Android, or in fact, he ended up buying Windows-based tablets, which did not work for what we needed. So we are now reallocated that to the water plant. They're using that down there, but we're using the county's GIS system to access all of our record documents in the field. And it's a workaround. Rather than have the town host our own server, we were able to use the county system and just basically link everything that we have in our Google Drive through that platform. And it works great on an iPad because it was written for an iPad, the county's application. When you try it on an Android or and this kills me because I'm not an Apple guy. Dan is. But you can't zoom. Zooming takes 2 hands, and you have to try to pull up the mouse tool. It's just totally, you can't pinch zoom. I think we wanted to start with 3 maybe and see how it goes. And we're
Are we going into one of those rigid type case things? or-
yes. So the idea would be the 2 supervisors and the on-call person would have one to start.
If you've had struggles with the other one, you know that the iPads can work better.
But Dan has used his personal iPad, and it's been great. We even went as far as to ask the county if they could redo their application, and didn't get much.
They use iPads.
They must, yeah, and the fire services use it as well. So I think they're using iPads. I mean, they're easier once they're set up.
All right, so you gotta try 3.
It would be I think it would have to be, we want to have internet access, so to whichever cell provider we're using.
We have to get the one that gets to the internet.
Yeah, because it's all, yeah. So that's why we don't want to have 10 or 12, or, you know, we give everybody one, we just want to limit it right now. We have old Android tablets, we have 3 or 4, but they just have PDF drawings of the maps.
They don't-
No, and they don't work. Even we tried using our personal cell phones as a hotspot, but they don't, it's very clunky that way. Having the iPad where they're standing, it zooms right into the map where they're standing, so they have access to information when they need it.
All right, let's give it a,
And I think under the new cell, that company that he's using is pretty reasonable. Yeah. Utility billing, just an update that the bills are due on the 19th. I haven't heard very much from Chris as far as calls. It seems to have been very quiet as of late, so. Wastewater treatment plant, the organic waste program update. So, we had a good conversation last week with DEC, and we proposed allowing us to take in whey with additional testing, similar to what we did with the beverage waste. The woman from DEC that we spoke to seemed to be in agreement that was a good idea. He had to check with her superiors. They're waiting for a letter back from them that would allow us to do it.
to give you a time frame on that.
We sort of, yeah, we
We
actually
gave them
did.
the time
Yeah.
frame that we'd like to do it, yeah,
Yeah, because,
start our trial period.
what was the date? Was it like a week and a half?
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
So-
kind of got a verbal commitment, but you're waiting for something in writing.
they agreed to, I think she agreed to the concept and it made sense. And the one thing that I did like is that she did equate the plant discharge to the ultimate test. If our effluent going out of the plant is within permit parameters, there's no reason why they should not allow it. So, but at the same time, because we're in the middle of the renewal of our permit, we're going to roll in an industrial, or look at doing an industrial mini pre-treatment plan.
Put everything in.
Yeah, so that would open us up for future acceptances without going through this step every time. And we also are looking at other, because we're now approved for egg wash, fog, glycerin, expired beverage, and brewery
brewery
waste. Yeah,
winery.
yeah. So all that stuff is approved right now, but we're not finding that on the market. Except for we do have one
We got the,
additional hauler that we want to do a contract for. But this would give us a way to move forward and start bringing in more and prove to DEC that this is going to work as they agreed to years ago.
Right.
I mentioned the new hauler, so Dan was able to work with Adirondack Septic, bring in fast oil and grease to the plant. But do they have the draft contract?
Yeah, the drafting.
Okay. And the water heater that is used with the beast, the screen that's used at the plant is still acting up on us, so we're looking at possible other options. One of them may be a tankless water heater, but we're working on getting prices on that, and I talked to a contractor yesterday to get their input on that as well. This would probably require either a resolution or finance committee.
You don't have an estimate on this yet for.
What are we thinking? Maxed out probably at $7,000, $6,000.
Right.
Yeah. It could be less. It depends on how many gallons per minute we actually need.
Okay.
We're working on that. Water treatment plant. I met with a contractor yesterday at the Water District 3 pump station. One of the pumps is making noise, probably needs to be pulled and inspected and possibly replaced. And the pumps were installed in 1973. So we've gotten our use of the life out of them. And the motors that are original, one is from 1965, I think from the water plant. We moved it there about 10 years ago. And the other one is probably from 1973. Yeah. So we're getting quotes from two contractors. One to pull one of the pumps, inspect it, possibly rebuild, and one price to replace it. And then also a price for a second one. So if it's within the reasonable numbers, we would do one first and then possibly the second one, because if the one is acting up, the other one's coming.
Right.
And we would replace the motors with high efficiency motors. 1973, the motor technology.
On or off.
Yeah, and yeah, so we're trying to run them with soft starts and they're not behaving nicely. So that was part of the upgrade. They put soft starts. But we're hearing chatter and most likely the bowls are warm, being that old. So.
Okay.
So if I have a price, I'll once I get a price, I'll share that. Just a couple other things, the splash pad, the sewer work is complete. They installed the new sewer for it. Contractor finished up, yesterday. I did mention that there was probably gonna be a change order on the project due to the loss of time when they had a large plugging in the line due to the bathroom at the park. And the same contractor is the low quote for the water, which will be approved by hopefully will be approved by the board on Tuesday. It was on the agenda for the last meeting, and then he could begin that work as well. And the water should take about a week or so to install. Vortex, the one splash pad supplier, happened to be here yesterday. I spoke to the rep, and then the other company I had a phone call with him earlier last week, and we're doing the final design. Now that we have water and sewer set where it's going to be, we're doing the final design on that, and hopefully have a resolution to award the contract for the splash pad at this month. And we had to get the utilities in first and be sure where everything would be tied into before we do the final
Great news.
design.
So we think, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna ask, so am I adding a tentative resolution to award a contract? for
Yes.
such pad?
That would be under a Sourcewell or some similar purchasing cooperative.
And that'll be on for
That's the plan. That's all I have.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Soon the next meeting's not 7:3 because that.
No, I changed it on my copy here. So Jason, is asking to do it later time. So I told him, he asked to ask around to see what would work for everybody. So I don't know,
Same.
in the day, I guess.
Like,
This, yes. I guess the issue we had, the early morning is conflicting with other responsibilities.
Well,
I would say that,
That they,
he wasn't, I'm not really sure if he wants to change the day too, but he was asking time of day what was working best for people.
I'll send an email out. Yeah. A survey.
Okay.
all right, next meeting is TBD. Motion to adjourn,
Gonna motion.
second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good sport.